Get started.
Going to mute everybody.
Here we go. You can unmute and do this. Oh, come on now. There we go. That.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And I believe Mr. Kester has our invocation today. I hope. Unmute you. There we go.
Let's pray. Our Father in heaven, we again thank and praise you for who you are, our creator, the great I am. You are the sovereign one of the universe. And we recognize again today that you are so patient with us. You're so forgiving, and we appreciate that. Thank you for all you have done. Thank you for all that you are doing, even for us today. We ask for your continued favors on us as we meet, even through this platform of Zoom. We ask that your blessing would be upon us, this great and wonderful club, the Catalina Rotary Club, where we get to be truthful, we get to be fair to all concerned, we get to build genuine goodwill and friendships. We thank you that we're also able to benefit all who are concerned. Today, we again thank you for being able to be a part of this club and to serve people through our camaraderie, where we enjoy each other's friendships and presence, for even the times that we enjoy the comedy that we engineer, and for being able to execute and carry through with various and sundry projects. May your blessing be upon our guest, this Chiricahua Park Ranger, Suzanne Moody, as she shares with us today. We again gratefully ask for all of these matters in your holy name. Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Kester. Thank you, Jim. Let's see. I think we're pretty much the normal folks. Club members are here today. So glad to see everybody. Our Suzanne's going to be speaking here in a little bit, but a couple things to go through I wanted to share with you. First, I can't do this enough, but Mr. Pender's done a great job, so I just wanted to show you something here. See that? Great job there with the changing young people, some of the efforts that we've done and had going on. You might recognize some of the people's pictures, food bank. So reorganized it, reshuffled it, done a pretty nice job with what's going on with there. If you look also and see, here's our speaker for today. Here's what's going on a little bit going forward. So I say, take a look at it if you have a chance. It's a nice job. That's that one. A couple other things. Don't forget to keep your 100-year, 100-mile. Frank Press is probably up to like 300 miles walking now, the way he's been going after stuff. But our walking effort with that, and get the information to Bobby D. And now I'm going to put, if Bobby D, if you would put your unmute, I'm going to show the other picture here that's just, it kind of scares me a little bit when I bring it up, but I'll let you talk in the background about the Queen of Hearts. Now, don't get too scared out there, everybody.
So I just put a link in the chat to this page, which I want to thank Pablo for setting up for us. But the Queen of Hearts is online and taking and selling tickets. You can see that there's $1,864 in the pot, $75 in sales in the last couple of days for those visiting. And basically you can buy a ticket for $1, or you can buy a batch of 6 for $25. And these tickets will be on sale through the 25th of June, when we'll have our first selection. And because it's once a month, we'll actually select 4 cards. For ticket winners, we'll select 4 cards, so that it'll be at the same rate as if we were doing it each week. So what's new and different about this is that we buy the tickets virtually online, and it's a pretty simple website. You simply decide if you're going to buy 1 or groups of 6 tickets, and it takes you to a Stripe payment, an online payment platform that we've set up, and you get an email from Event Groove, the vendor, with your ticket numbers. We encourage you to check out the site. If you have some thoughts about how we could arrange things better, let us know. But the board has agreed that when we have a winner, whether it's in June, July, August, or whenever, the 50% of the proceeds that go to the club will be directed to the Erickson Elementary School book buying program. So there is, each time we have a new pot that starts to build up, we'll have a specific beneficiary in mind. And this first one we decided would be the Erickson School. The other fact that we probably want to add on here somewhere, there are 30 cards remaining in the deck, which I retrieved from the Viscount, 29 cards plus 1 joker. If you do get that joker, there's a $25 payment. Obviously, if you get the queen, you split the pot, which would be $932. So we're picking it up in midstream from where we left off over a year ago. And I encourage you to visit the site, check it out, and if so moved, participate.
Tony had a question, hands up.
Thank you. Will the link to Event Groove appear anywhere else other than our chat? Will it appear on our website somewhere, or maybe behind the login of our website? If we
I was hoping it might go out each week with the wagon wheel.
Yeah.
So that it's kind of constantly in front of us, and then I'll be kind of the carnival barker every week, encouraging people to just visit the site. And the good thing is you can kind of see in real time what sales have taken place.
The wagon wheel is a good way to do it. Cool.
And I think we'll do what we can to promote it.
And President Paul, I changed the background image so you don't get scared anymore. So, so there you go. It's up to date changes.
Oh, how sweet. That's called On the Fly. Thank you, Pablo.
You are welcome.
With that, a couple other things. We're looking to do a social event next Thursday, same place. Don't have the information yet from Michael. He said he may have it yet today, so that's going forward with that effort. Let me get the right piece of paper. And then other information, just got an email back from Diane at the Viscount. Wyndham has basically said no masks inside the building anywhere. So the mask requirement is gone there. Now that I know that, I'll send out a survey to membership to see if we can get a kind of a head count. We'll look at trying to basically have a hybrid meeting starting on the 9th, I think, of July, going forward. We'll have to watch carefully, and the board's going to have to figure out what to do as far as The cost, the meal she was talking about between $22 and $24 or something like that. We just got to figure that piece of it out going forward. Probably be individual billing, at least for quarter one for next year. But that's a discussion with the board here in a couple weeks. But when I send out the survey, kind of, if you will attend in person or virtually, and thanks to Bob Grady, I think Bob Delaney, Tony, and Steve on working to figure those things out. We're also going to need some people to kind of help out with some of the control. We need a couple people basically to kind of help out with making that thing work. That way, people that if they're someplace else in town or out of town and they want to attend, they can plug in. We're also looking at probably starting the meeting, the meal at noon, and then having the actual speaker at about 12:30. That way, everybody, you can kind of plug in and get an idea who's there if you're being virtual, and then actually listen to the discussion at 12:30 to make it work. So that's kind of where things look like they're going. So keep our fingers crossed. We're getting close to back to a little bit back more to normal. So that's what's going on with that. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Mr. Egbert, who I think is going to introduce our speaker today. If you'd unmute, Pat.
Thank you, President Paul. Figure out how to use this computer. It's enjoyable for me to welcome our speaker today, Suzanne Moody. Ms. Moody is a ranger with the National Park Service, and she's now working at the Chiricahua National Monument in the southeast portion of our state. Ms. Moody is an energetic and enthusiastic supporter of the outdoors and especially the monument. Today we can learn from her more about the geology and history of this national treasure. This is the second in our series to reintroduce ourselves to the treasures of the Southwest, to create opportunity to get out and see more. Chiricahua National Monument is a treasure in the mountains southeast, a pleasant 1.5-hour drive, an opportunity for a picnic, an opportunity to spend time with family or friends exploring. It has a cowboy backdrop with tall hoodoos, beautiful pine forests, and lots of quiet. And if you go there, you can see turkeys, real turkeys, as opposed to the one you're looking at right now. I am happy to have Suzanne with us. Suzanne, I'm going to turn it over to you, and you can tell us about your national park. You're going to have to unmute yourself, though.
There we go. How about that? Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for the wonderful introduction and the invitation to come share the wonders of Chiricahua National Monument with your group today. Is everyone hearing me okay? All right, super. This has been a great learning opportunity for me. With COVID, attending Zoom meetings is one thing, but doing a presentation has been a good learning curve for me. And thank you, Paul, for your easy, laid back patience with my slight nervousness this morning. So with that, are you ready for a virtual road trip to Chiricahua National Monument? Let's go. And oops. And one more thing. Okay. Are we here in the car? Got your lunch, ready to go? So Chiricahua National Monument, why would you want to go here, and what can you expect to see and do perhaps? So for starters, jump on Interstate 10 and just head east. We're roughly an hour and a half to 2 hours from the Tucson or Catalina area. And once you get to Wilcox, you just take 186. It's about a 45-minute drive out to the monument. But do be prepared. There's no food or gas once you leave Wilcox. As people are heading towards the monument through those miles of open grasslands, I'm sure the first question they're asking themselves is, how do you say that funny looking name, especially if they're not from Southern Arizona? Well, we all know it's Chiricahua. And here, the heart of the Chiricahua Mountains lies to the south. It's managed by the Coronado National Forest Service folks, whereas the monument area, this little blip is Sugarloaf Mountain, one of the highest points in the monument. So we are just kind of on the northwest corner of the Chiricahua mountain range. Now, when you think of the word Chiricahua, do the Chiricahua Apaches come to mind first? And here we have Geronimo, and of course, the famous Chiricahua Apache leader Cochise's son, Naiche, who actually took over for his father. More about them a little bit later in the program. But the name Chiricahua might have come from an Opata word. This Chiricahua up here on the left, the Opatas were apparently farmers living where Douglas, Arizona is today. And their word to describe this mountain range possibly meant place of the wild turkey. And sure enough, when I started working here in the 1990s, nobody had seen a wild turkey for ages. Because the incoming settlers and miners and ranchers of the early 1900s quickly saw there was dinner on ready to go. However, about 2010, the Wild Turkey Federation, along with the Arizona Department of Game and Fish, released some of these more Mexican Gould wild turkeys back into this mountain range. And in fact, this photo was taken just outside the visitor center. He's really strutting his stuff. The second part of the name, the National Monument, do we have a statue or a plaque? Great definitions of the word monument, but in this case, it just means the area was set aside by a presidential proclamation. In fact, it was President Calvin Coolidge on April 18th of 1924 who established Chiricahua National Monument because of the unique geology, the balanced rocks and pinnacles. Oftentimes people ask me, so what's the difference between a park and a monument? And it goes back to how the land was originally set aside. You might remember when Saguaro National Park was a national monument, and even the Grand Canyon started out life as a national monument. A national park, on the other hand, always requires an act of Congress. Does it mean they get more funding? Not especially. There's just probably more name recognition because there's only roughly 60 true national parks in a system that contains over 420 National Park Service sites. So how did these amazing rocks come to be here in this very quiet and peaceful landscape? It started off with a very violent, dramatic volcanic eruption, an estimated 27 million years ago, give or take. Now, I'm using this photo of Mount St. Helens eruption back in 1980, because that's the closest we have to what might have happened here in the Chiricahua Mountains so long ago. So if you remember in 1980, when Mount St. Helens erupted, there were huge clouds of ash and gas and rocks that went up into the atmosphere. And that's what happened in the Chiricahuas too, although geologists estimate the eruption was about 1,000 times greater than Mount St. Helens. So as this material went up into the air, as it came back down to earth, it covered an area of 1,200 square miles. So from Chiricahua to the Grand Canyon is about 500 miles round trip. Obviously, it's more than double that distance. Although the farther you get away from the volcano, the thinner the layers of ash. Closest to the volcano, the layers were about an estimated 2,000 feet deep. Finally, so much material was blown out of the volcano that the top collapsed. And this dotted circle on the map is the rim of that ancient Turkey Creek volcano. It left behind a gigantic hole about 12 miles across and 5,000 feet deep. And as you can see, that little red square just to the north of the circle is where Chiricahua National Monument is today. Or here, this view from a side point, if you use these peaks and kind of use your imagination, you could almost picture or get an idea of that caldera or the center of the volcano. Now, to get those balanced rocks and pinnacles, when all that volcanic ash and other rock and debris settled, it was still so hot, everything melted or fused together and formed the rock that's known as rhyolite. As the layers of rhyolite were cooling, they started cracking both vertically and horizontally. There was some uplift forming the next stage, or our current stage, of the Chiricahua Mountains. And now if we jump ahead to about 10,000 years ago, in the days of the last ice age, water, of course, seeped into those cracks because apparently it was a much cooler and wetter climate. Froze expanded and melted, washed out the loose material until you've got that amazing landscape that people enjoy today. Do they ever fall over? Surprisingly, the pinnacles are extremely stable, and instead of rocks stacked on top of each other, there's still a solid core. So even the gigantic Sonoran earthquake of 1887 that broke windows in Tucson and changed the water courses of perhaps the San Pedro River, and was an estimated 7.2 or 3 level earthquake on today's Richter scale, probably didn't have much impact on these balanced rocks and pinnacles because there's not a big breakage layer. You know, it's one thing for me to tell you this amazing volcanic story, but you can see the proof in the rocks itself when you're out hiking the trails, that those lighter streaks are called fiammes, a wonderful Italian word that means flame. And they were pieces of pumice or other rocks that were flattened with the heat and pressure during those amazing ash flows. There was a small lava flow which oozed out the side of the Turkey Creek volcano at the very end of the volcanic activity. Today, amazingly, the only place you see that day site is at the summit of Sugarloaf Mountain, which is now one of the highest points in the park. And it's a great 1-mile trail if you're looking for a wonderful place for sunset or sunrise. There you go. So there's the geology story, but there's more to Chiricahua than just pretty rocks. Did you know the Chiricahua Mountains are at a crossroads from 4 very different ecosystems? And sometimes they're called a Sky Island mountain range, just like the Catalinas or the Rincons, the Huachucas, the Santa Ritas. As the climate was changing from that cool and wet 10,000 years ago to what we have today, sometimes species got trapped on their respective mountain ranges, like our sweet Chiricahua fox squirrel. So when you're at the monument, if you see this bright rusty red colored squirrel, consider yourself extremely lucky because there's not very many of them around. Kind of the same thing happened at the Grand Canyon, where you've got the Kaibab squirrel on the north rim and the Abert squirrel on the south rim. So those 4 ecosystems that collide here at Chiricahua National Monument include the Douglas fir trees and ponderosa pine trees from our northern Rocky Mountains on the cool north-facing slopes, whereas on the warmer south-facing slopes, you're going to find that border pinyon pine from Mexico's Sierra Madre Mountain. And we even have plants and animals from the 2 deserts, your Sonoran Desert to our southwest and the Chihuahuan Desert to the southeast. So for researchers, it's a really crazy, mixed up, fun place to do some exploring. Some of those animals that you might be lucky enough to see during a visit include the white-nosed coati or coatimundi. This one is happily munching madrone berries behind the visitor center a couple of years ago. You know, they're the Mexican cousin of that raccoon with that long skinny tail. Their long nose and sharp claws are excellent digging tools because normally you see them on the ground flipping rocks looking for insects, nuts, and other berries. Most every day, though, you'll find the Arizona white-tailed deer as our welcoming committee. And maybe if you come in the summertime, you'll be lucky enough to see the black bears crossing the road. Or a bobcat. In fact, this morning, I was so excited because the Mexican jays were putting up a big fuss. And I've learned that you should start looking around. Something else is going on. And there was a bobcat that crossed the road right by the visitor center. There was a wild turkey next to the bobcat, which fortunately escaped being eaten. And we had real rain this morning. So it's been a fantastic day. And then, of course, all the other critters, the amphibians, the reptiles, the insects. This black-tailed rattlesnake in the lower corner was a photo I took just a couple of weeks ago. It was quite the welcome committee when I came home after work. The Chiricahuas, whether you're here in the National Park Service area or on the east side by Portland Cave Creek, are an amazing bird watching area. Once again, even the blue jays that we have here are a Mexican species of jay. And we've got the birds that aren't birds at all, like duck on a rock that you can see in the Heart of Rocks loop. And that brings us to the story of the people. Starting with 10,000 years ago, once again, the days of the last ice age, the Paleo people moved south into the Sulphur Springs Valley. They were the hunters and gatherers who, there's a wonderful Bureau of Land Management site along the San Pedro Riverway called Murray Springs, where they've actually found Clovis spear points and fossilized remains of woolly mammoths and mastodons. Now, the Chiricahua Apaches, who are most associated with this area, probably moved from the north anywhere from the 14 to 1600s, depending on whose book you're reading. You can see why it was difficult for the military to find their homes. They were nomads, you know, they spent the hot summers up in the mountains and the cooler winters down in the valleys, and were experts at living off the land. Of course, their most important leader was Cochise, and towards the end, he was even able to negotiate and have a Chiricahua Apache reservation established for his group of people. However, after his death of natural causes in 1874, the reservation was disbanded, and the government's plan was just to move the Chiricahua Apaches to the north, to the San Carlos Apache Reservation, which didn't work out so well. It was Nietzsche and Geronimo even who negotiated the final surrender of the Chiricahua Apaches in 1886. After years of warfare on both sides. One of the forgotten secrets of the history of Chiricahua National Monument is a very short period of time between September of 1885 and 1886, when troops E, H, and I of the Buffalo Soldiers, or the 10th Cavalry, had a camp down at the mouth of Bonita Canyon. You know, they did their patrols, but never ran into many Chiricahua Apaches. So to fill in their some spare time, somebody got the bright idea to build a monument to honor President Garfield. So whoever wanted to could go find a stone, a chunk of the rhyolite. They very carefully hand carved their names or other bits of information and created this enormous 6 foot by 10 foot by 3 feet tall monument. Unfortunately, by the 1920s, that monument was getting kind of old and falling apart. So Neil Erickson of Faraway Ranch wanted to do something to restore that monument. However, he did not have the funding, and neither the military or Garfield's family was interested in financially supporting this project. So the stones were used to build the fireplace at the main Faraway Ranch house. And you could see the main stone over the mantelpiece as well. And in the process, they were able to save over 60 of those very special Buffalo Soldier carved stones, which is one of the few tangible pieces of Buffalo Soldier history anywhere in the United States. As the Chiricahua Apaches were leaving their beloved Chiricahua Mountains, settler families like the Staffords were moving into Bonita Canyon. Here, Jehu and his wife Pauline discovered a hot spring that they used to irrigate their gardens and orchards and sell the extra produce to the folks at Fort Bowie to make money for the family. Well, remember that big Sonoran earthquake? Yeah, unfortunately for Mr. Stafford, the earthquake changed the water table enough so that his hot spring went cold and eventually disappeared. But wouldn't that be fun to have a hot spring here today? Their cabin still stands. It's one of the oldest log cabins in the state of Arizona, although it's empty at the current time. And that brings us to their neighbors, the Erickson family. Neil and Emma, classic immigrants from Sweden in this case. I always find it interesting that it was Emma Peterson who purchased the original log cabin that became the family home before she married Neil Erickson. Neil continued to add on and make improvements to the house as the family grew to include children Lillian, Ben, and Hildegard. And today, well, at least before COVID, we were giving guided tours of the interior of the house. Family members were living in the home up until 1970. So it's a trip back in time to those days of maybe where we all grew up. Hopefully, once COVID restrictions get a little more lifted, we'll be doing tours once again of the house. Neil Erickson discovered that his dream of being a rancher after getting out of the Army over at Fort Bowie wasn't quite what he expected it to be. So fortunately, he ended up being hired as a Forest Service ranger in the newly established Chiricahua Forest Reserve. When he was transferred to northern Arizona by Walnut Canyon in 1917, his daughter Lillian and her husband Ed Riggs took over management of the ranch. And those were the days when Faraway was an active guest ranch that Lillian and her sister Hildegard had started. People came from all across the country to enjoy our wonderful weather, to take out horseback riding trips up to the Wonderland of Rocks, to enjoy the peace and quiet, just what we get to do today. Once the monument was established in 1924, the first thing that happened was to bring in the Civilian Conservation Corps men of the 1930s to do the necessary visitor and staff facility development. They were here in Bonita Canyon from 1934 till 1940, doing things like improving the scenic drive, building all the hiking trails, many of the structures, like the visitor center, which is the top photo, along with the exhibit building at Masai Point that you might have been inside if you've been out here to the park. All in preparation for a big dedication party on Labor Day of 1934, when thousands of people traveled up to Masai Point and enjoyed a huge barbecue beef dinner. They barbecued about 50 head of cattle, along with gallons upon gallons of pinto beans and coffee. Unfortunately for the CCC men who did all the preparation work, they were not invited to the party, which I've always thought was not very fair. The 30s also brought professional photographer George Grant, and it's fun to compare these photos from the 30s to what we see today along Bonita Canyon. Another hidden piece of the history as we move forward in time is that after the CCC men left, the property was sold and developed as a Silver Guest Ranch. Today, you can still see those massive stone fireplaces that were added to the CCC mess hall. The 1960s brought the 50th anniversary of the National Park Service, or Mission 66 as it's commonly known, when thousands of dollars were poured into National Park Service sites across the United States to improve visitor facilities. And that's when our current public portion of the monument was added. And if you've been to the visitor center, you might even recognize these exhibit panels and the cases. We are hopefully on line to someday get those exhibits updated to the 21st century. Although fortunately for us today, they did an excellent job of picking topics that are still relevant to our visitors. The 1970s was when 86% of the National Monument was designated a wilderness area after President Johnson's signing of the Wilderness Act in 1964. So if you hike the Echo Canyon Loop or Heart of Rocks, you're in a designated wilderness area, which means that there's even more strict controls about what you may or may not do. So for example, our trail crew, not only are they trying to duplicate the original trail building styles in the 1930s, but by wilderness standards, they are not permitted to use mechanized power tools except in extreme situations. The super big secret is the disappearance of Park Ranger Paul Fugate in 1980. He told his coworkers he felt like going for a walk and was never seen or heard from again. Even to this day, nobody knows for sure what happened to Park Ranger Paul Fugate. Finally, the Horseshoe Tooth Fire happened 10 years ago, right this time, in fact. It was a human-caused fire that started in Horseshoe Canyon on the east side of the mountain range and has provided the most dramatic change to the landscape. There were over 100 firefighters here, all prepared as the fire loomed ever closer. Once again, that mountain on the left is Sugarloaf Mountain. So from the start to the National Monument area, in the nearly 2 months that fire burned, 223,000 out of a potential 240,000 acres were touched by fire of this mountain range. As you probably experienced with the fires in the Catalina Mountains last summer. You know, that summer of 2011, we had enough rain, but not too much. So it sparked the new growth, and what once was black was the greenest I'd ever seen it. It also brought the blackest water down the mountains too. Flooding became an issue without that vegetation holding the moisture in place. This gentleman got a little excited about leaving the parking lot. And when I went out to measure that sandbar, it was 8 inches deep in sediment that had washed down the mountain. But he did finally get out. That also led to some road construction in 2016, where extra security walls were put into place, and they enlarged the culverts. It was also the centennial year of the National Park Service, who has that mission to preserve and protect. Finally, most recently, Chiricahua passed the certification test and is now the world's 104th designated international dark sky park. And if you're lucky to come out and enjoy the night skies, you'll be blown away by the numbers of stars and other night sky objects that you might be lucky enough to see during your visit, because it is so very remote and dark. So to wrap it all up, the Chiricahua National Monument facilities, not only do we have the Visitor Center and the Western National Parks Association store, which is open daily from 8:30 to 4:30. There's a wonderful Bonita Canyon campground. Do make your advanced reservations on recreation.gov, because with COVID, it's been crazy how booked the campground has been. The 8 miles paved scenic drive, 17 miles of day use hiking trails, and all this is the very top tip of the iceberg. So for more information, always go to the official source, the nps.gov website, for more information about any National Park Service site. Plus a shout out, if you're in the neighborhood, be sure to stop by Fort Bowie National Historic Site or Coronado National Memorial, south of Sierra Vista on the US-Mexico border. No matter how or what interests you most about Chiricahua National Monument, where it's the amazing landscape and the unique story of the geology, to the diversity of plants and animals, or the human history, I hope you take a real road trip sometime soon. Remember, the monument, we start out at 5,400 feet in elevation, so it's usually a good 5 to 10 degrees cooler than Tucson. And it's a nice escape for the summer, which is usually a very slow season. So if anyone has questions through the chat, I'm more than happy to answer them at this point.
You could take down, we usually have Steve will help coordinate questions, people raise hands. If you could take down your slideshow, then we can see if somebody.
Sure.
All right. Yeah, we do have Ranger Suzanne. We do have one question already in chat. I want to announce to the group, though, I'm probably behind the curve, but I updated my Zoom recently, and I noticed that at least in the version for desktops, the raise hand function is now in the reactions. So if you go to the bottom and you see reactions, click on that, and that's for some reason where the raise hand button now is. Okay. Yep. So we had a question, initial question from Jeff Nordenson, and you had mentioned early in your presentation about the pronunciation of the name.
Correct.
But what are some of the unusual pronunciations for the name of the monument you may have heard over the years?
We always like to call it the Hawaiian version, which is Chiricahua. That's the one that sticks in my mind the most. But, with people coming from across the country and before COVID from around the world, if you're not used to the Spanish pronunciation of things like you experience in Tucson or Catalina as well, it's saguaro, not sagoro, or the javelina and not javelina kind of thing. So yeah, I've heard almost every possible version of Chiricahua, but Chiricahua is always my favorite. Yep.
Okay. Let's see. Arturo asks, what are the typical temperatures at the monument this time of year?
So right now we're running highs are in the 80s, lows are in the 60s. Actually, I take that back. Lows are more like the 50s and maybe even down in the 40s. So typically May and June, just like the Catalina, Tucson area, is hot and dry. We might get over 100 degrees, but that's not an everyday guarantee. And then hopefully the monsoon kicks in, so we get some rain from July through September and the creeks start running. And then we are high enough to average around 12 inches of snow, hopefully throughout the course of the winter. Although, once again, we've had dry winters the last several years, so we need more snow.
Okay. Andy Kerr asks, what is the latest word on the quest for Paul Fugate? Or is there a quest?
Actually, that's a great question, because Paul's widow, Dodie, retired a couple years ago. So in her quest to get some final answers before the people who participated in the massive search, or maybe might have had other information about that case, could be contacted again. And Outside Magazine, even this February, did a big article on what happened to Paul Fugate. So if you go to, I think it's outsidemagazine.com, you can search for that article. They upped the reward money and calibrated it for today's money. So yeah, if you know anything about what happened to Paul Fugate, you're in the running for about $65,000.
Okay. Let's see. Joan Booth asks, if we come to visit and stay in the campground, might we likely meet you in person?
You would if you stop by the visitor center. Yes, it's my home away from home. So be sure. Oh, and the other great thing too is that Chiricahua National Monument no longer has a park entrance fee. In 2014, that was changed. Excuse me. Somebody in Washington, D.C. had the fun job of doing a bunch of number crunching and determined that so many people to Chiricahua were entering with passes, like the senior pass or the access pass for free entrance. We just weren't collecting enough money to make that program cost effective, which sounds horrible at first. That money was used for special projects. And so now places like the Grand Canyon that collect millions of dollars per year, they get to keep 80% of their money that they collect, and the other 20% goes into a separate pot where places like Chiricahua can apply with project-specific uses for that money and hopefully get awarded some of those funds.
Okay. If we wanted to come out to Chiricahua, is there food and drink available at the visitor center there, the headquarters, or should we stock up in Wilcox or somewhere else before coming out?
Definitely stock up either in Tucson before you leave, or Wilcox is the last place to pick up anything, whether it's Circle K or the Safeway grocery store. So definitely kind of place where you want to bring a sack lunch, great for picnics. The visitor center store does have snacks like trail bars and jerky and some wonderful prickly pear candy to get that sugar high, but that's about it. And we do not even have a vending machine for drinks out here. So if you want something other than water, definitely bring it with you.
Okay, let's see. I don't see any other questions. Anybody else? Okay, I guess that's it. So back to you, President. Oh, Al Chester is a late entry. Go ahead, Al.
Yep.
Thanks, Steve. Yeah, I was in the chat, but it must have gotten lost over there. I just had a question. We sometimes do RV camping, and what can you tell us about what's available for that if we want to come and bring our dogs?
Sure. Oh, thank you for asking those questions. Yes. So the length limitation for RVs or trailer at the Bonita Canyon Campground is 29 feet. Because the road through the campground crosses the creek bed a couple times, and it's those dips that catch the longer rigs before we made that length limitation. There's no hookups or dump stations, so you're out in the wilderness kind of deal, but we do have a restroom building with flush toilets. So yes, not too bad. I would definitely make advanced reservations on recreation.gov because normally this time of year, the campground should be fairly well empty. Well, it's still booked solid. So whether people are just doing more traveling across the United States. So yeah, especially if you have a longer rig, because not all the sites will accommodate those longer rigs. Now, if you're just here to visit, please don't bring an RV longer than 24 feet because the length limitation on the scenic drive from the visitor center up to the side point, which is a 6-mile distance, has been changed. So, and that's still catching people by surprise. Dogs, that's it. There was one more thing. Yes, bring your dog. Just know that you won't be able to leave you shouldn't ever leave your dog alone, and it needs to be on a leash connected to you or another person. And if you're going to be hiking, it's very limited as to the trails that dogs or other pets are permitted on. It's just the lower canyon area and not among the rock formations. So sometimes I own a dog myself, which is always a challenge because I can't take her with me when I want to hike the trails. But yeah, sometimes it's almost easier in some respects to leave them home. Mm-hmm.
Well, thanks for that. If
Sure.
the dogs happen to want to visit, can they bring us?
Of course, yes.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's beautiful hiking out there. My wife and I have gone several times, and we did go last for our anniversary in September. And well, I think at that point we saw one other person on the trail all day, so it was gorgeous. And we were very happy to see that we're still physically fit enough to do it.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, it's not a,
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I was going to say it's not often that you can have a National Park Service site to yourself, which is, you know, one of those things. It's so nice to detach from all our electronics, maybe because cell phone service is very limited out here, which surprises and scares people at some point in time. But
okay. Oh, 2 more questions and then we'll wrap it up, I guess.
All right.
So if you want to do some night photography, where's the best place to camp?
To camp within the monument, it would be the Bonita Canyon Campground. You are permitted to be up at the end of the scenic drive, like Masai Point or Echo Canyon, to do your night sky photography. It's always nice if you stop at the visitor center and let us know so we can contact our patrol staff so they aren't totally surprised when they see you up there. But yeah, gorgeous night skies.
And final question, what is the busiest time of the year for the monument?
We are just finishing. March is the busiest month, followed by April, when the visitor center parking lot is full, the Echo Canyon parking lot is full. You'll find people out on the trails. You know, if we've had a wet winter, that's when the desert blooms, as you all know, which really draws people to southern Arizona. My favorite season is fall, when it's not quite so busy and temperatures are a little bit lower and you don't quite have the threat of lightning and those monsoon thunderstorms. And then, you know, when it snows, my Minnesota farm girl heart is always especially happy. So at least it's not long and obnoxious about that, like Minnesota.
Are there any fall particular areas that are good for, say, fall colors?
You know, it's ironic because we have 7 different kinds of oak trees here in the park, and they actually keep their leaves over winter and then change color and drop them in spring. So right now we're having more fall color in spring than in fall, but there are some Arizona sycamores trees and Arizona walnut trees. So there's just a tiny bit of fall color here in Bonita Canyon. And I think over on the east side of the Chiricahuas, in the Forest Service area, there's, or at least there used to be, a grove of Rocky Mountain maple trees. So if you need that scarlet red fix, that's the place to go.
Great. Thank you so much. Back to you, President Paul.
Thank you, Mr. Steve. And thank you, Suzanne. It's always nice to see about all the nice things we have that we kind of take for granted down in this part of the world. I mean, there's a lot of beautiful places to go and visit and see. Yeah, probably hasn't been a lot of people out that way though these days. One thing we will do in your honor, we donate funding for 10 vaccinations for polio in your honor of your talk today. It's something that the Rotary pushes very hard. One of these days, maybe we'll be rid of polio, just like we're going after the more current virus these days. So, but great pictures, awesome. That picture of the night sky was awesome. Just beautiful. So you're welcome. You can see, yeah, you probably see some of these people show up down there at one point in time looking for you. Hopefully Joan can get her RV down there and make a stop. But yeah, it could be fun for a lot of folks to go down there and just kind of explore. So thank you. You're welcome to stick around. We got a couple more things we're going to go through for the club stuff, but I think everybody has been very happy with what we saw. Great. Thanks for setting it up, Pat, and great pictures. And like I said, great information to know.
Good. Hope to see you at the park.
Yep.
Have a great day.
You too. A couple things I just wanted to read. Bob Delaney texted with Kirk today. He's had 10 of his 19 treatments. Good spirits. Check in with him. wkirkreed@gmail.com. Probably appreciate a text and some encouragement. I know I've had a couple people ask about how he's doing, and he's a little hesitant to be on Zoom calls because he's afraid to talk and all that kind of stuff. But fingers crossed and prayers would be with him on that. A couple other things to think about. I want to thank Jim for the invocation and Pat for introducing things. And now I need to go back and do the sergeant thing. I'll probably have to find myself because I've already given you advance copy on what the meeting invite is going to be in 2 weeks. I screwed up, trying to do everything and then reshuffle is a little bit much, but we'll get there. I figured another couple of years I might actually get it halfway decent at doing this thing. So, but for Sergeant, I heard that there's a couple birthdays. Mr. Nortonson, your birthday is coming up. I'm
is.
gonna let the younger one go first.
Okay.
I maybe get in trouble too if I go to Risky's and see Allison. Jeff?
Oh, you want me to? Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not the youngest. No. And in fact,
Sorry, I was on mute.
when
Thank you, and happy birthday, Jeff, my birthday twin.
Thank you. Thank you. When we were first out cleaning the road 2 times ago, I had the opportunity to partner with Allison, whom I had not met before. And we discovered that although we have the birthday on the same day, it was very clear that it was different decades by far. So what I would like to propose is I will go half a leg up for my birthday and half a leg up for Allison's birthday and just be happy that she's here and we had a great time.
Outstanding, Jeff. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
You're welcome.
I don't see Norm. He's gotten older since last week, and I think we took care of Anita last week. So
no, you did not.
We didn't. Oh, we saved
no,
it. Okay. You survived, and your anniversary of your 29th birthday for the 10th time.
Right. Exactly. Well, I'm celebrating all month, so I mean, you could have, recognized me next month as well. But no, I had a, really great birthday. It was, I don't like to deal with Facebook that much, but one of the things it does, it keeps you connected to people that you don't see very often and friends far and wide. And so you get little happy birthdays from the folks that you're really glad to hear from. And then I went wild and decided, maybe I'll try this fundraiser thing and did the fundraiser piece for on Facebook for the ALS Association. And to my surprise, there were donations, and I think as I checked last night, it was $1,067 that was donated. And so what a happy birthday is that, I mean, so I will be going a leg up, and there's so many great things going on in Rotary. I never know quite where to put my money, but I think during this particular time, I'm going to send it in for the disaster fund and hope that it'll do some good. So, thank you.
Yeah, we all know it'll do some good. That's one thing good about Rotary. So, other people, happy bucks. Mr. Egbert.
Yes, this was Candy's birthday.
Oh.
75, and so we had a clam bake. The kids fixed the clam bake and it all over ate, and it was good. So I'm going to do a leg up for that, and the fact that we have moved into our remodeled house and are surviving, or I'm surviving.
Yeah, that's good. Would you have to move right across the street or something like that?
That's it, right across the street. Didn't want to move too far.
That keeps things handy. Other happy bucks, Arturo, I think I saw you. Yes.
Yeah, I'm very happy to report that my son Gabriel has graduated from Basis High School. and he is enrolled at ASU this coming year for mechanical engineering. So I'm very proud of him. So, and then in addition, it is my wife's birthday. My beautiful wife Maria's birthday is today, so I'll be sending a leg up for both.
Okay,
All right.
super, Arturo. Great news. Let's see, does gold and yellow, or what, a yellow and red go with white and never mind the color?
Yeah, no, I know.
Yeah. Other folks, Mr. Grady.
In honor of Connie's birthday and our 41st wedding anniversary, I'll do a leg up and send a check off to Andy.
Thank you. Congratulations on that. I was gonna say, yeah, we're not gonna, well, I'm gonna let Michael, do you have any updates or are we still hunting? Oh, look, Michael, your younger twin's with you.
Yeah, yeah, I got my younger twin here. Yeah, I'm still working on that for happy hour next Thursday. The place we had lined up was booked, so we're looking for other options more central. Okay. I heard for some people, so more centrally located. So.
Okay. Sounds good. When we find that out, we'll get information out to everybody. So what's going on? So appreciate that. Anybody else have comments? Happy bucks? Yeah, so yeah, high forward. Okay. Well, I'll try to get better with the Zoom links going forward. Just a couple other things. Today in history, the American Red Cross was founded by Clara Barton in 1881. And Charles Lindbergh, he decided to land his plane in Paris in 1927. So a couple history. And then in honor of the Chiricahua, today's National Endangered Species Day. How about that one? And there's a lot of those around. But I like these ones better. National Pizza Party Day and National Bike to Work Day. The Pizza Party Day is the one you got to go with, of course. So that's, I hope I'm not missing anything, but I think that's kind of where we're at for things. Like I say, the Viscount's taking the masks down. I'll be doing a survey or so in the next week or two so we can start to kind of get that thing figured out for the hybrid meetings, and also send out the information about the social, get that put together for next Thursday if we can make that all work. So hopefully we're going to be getting back close to everybody. If you haven't gotten a vaccine or haven't and still want to, please get signed. You can almost just walk up and do them now from what I understand. So fingers crossed as we move forward and try to go back and start seeing each other a little bit in person and a little bit online. And I'll put the links in for the Queen and for our webpage so you can go look at it. Like again, thank you, Pablo, for the, now we don't have the scary picture. We probably won't get as much donated, you know, but look good. Nice job with that. And again, thanks, Steve, for the working on the webpage. And finally, if you haven't registered for the district conference, it's in a couple weeks. It's only $10. It's virtual. I think you can probably plug in and get in and watch some things and come back out, in and out a little bit, and be able to pick up some things with Rotary. So be good to think about. So everybody be safe. It's still not hot out there yet, much to Mr. Hamstra's concern, but I'm sure it will be here soon enough. And I hope, Pam, you're doing okay up and walking around. I saw you walk into Andy's shot, so hopefully your back's on the mend too. So, oh, one other thing I saw, the county has opened up the visitor center downtown, and I let Pat Dwyer know that. So when she comes back, she'll have something to do. So have a good one. See ya.